And that's what Dave Hamilton smells like. What's going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and sunglass. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, this is Dan Ray.
That was a terrible opening.
No, I loved it. I loved it.
I was just trying to tie in the fact that I had the opportunity to co-host GigGab this past week.
Yep.
And got to hang out with Dave for a little bit.
Good. I love Dave.
You know, we talk a lot about the world that we're in, the environment that kind of like bred this show, but frankly, GigGab is the main reason why this show exists in the first place. So getting a chance to spend time with Dave and host the show is pretty rad.
Yeah.
And if you got reached out to as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, when Paul announced he was leaving, I think Dave put feelers out to a bunch of people, and I was among them. So, yeah, I'm ready and eager anytime. I don't know that I have, the quality of what I have to say is every week is a challenge, but happy to do it.
It was a cool thing, and maybe we'll get a chance to do it later on down the road. The big thing that I got an opportunity to do, and it kind of became clear when I was speaking about this on the Patreon Slack, is I got a chance to promote my ebook.
Yeah.
Which I don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. What's that about?
So at the end of last year, I had kind of put together the specifics around an ebook around creative strategy, but like strategy in general when you're trying to launch something. And I put this thing together. It's called the Band System. And I released it to no fanfare because I just frankly didn't talk a lot about it. And I guess I'm probably just trying to get over the imposter syndrome around the fact that I made a thing that is kind of outside of this particular scope and trying to promote it to make it do something. And so Dave was really generous in the fact that he was willing to talk about it and promote it. And so I took him up on that offer, and I probably need to do that some more. So that's kind of what is going on. But even the folks in the Patreon side were like, I don't know. I didn't know you did this. So it is a thing that I did that I'm very terrible at promoting. So that's on me. But in the process of talking about it, not only with Dave, but also the folks in our community, they were like, hey, I know that you put it up on your website, but are there any other places you can get it? And as of the recording of this episode, it is now available on the Kindle store. You can go and look up Adam Patrick Johnson Band System, but you have to put periods between all the letters, BAND.
It's an acronym.
So go check that out if that's something you're into. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, good.
So we're going into the 4th of July weekend. How's it going? How you feeling?
Good. Had a crazy fun little private gig yesterday doing the trivia for a company I played for a few times now, and that was great. We'll probably talk more about that. It plays into the main thing we want to talk about today.
Yep.
Then just looking at some travel. I will not be around next weekend. We were discussing that, so there will be some voice instead of me or no voice instead of me. I don't know what you're gonna do. You'll figure it out.
I don't know what I'm going to do either.
Yeah, I know, but I have faith in you. Going up to Minnesota, see the in-laws and hang with them. So
nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And another thing that was regarding the gig that you just did was right now it is just hotter than you know what.
Oh my God.
On the East Coast.
I'm almost recovered from this gig from how hot it was. Yeah, brutal.
And so we're kind of in this world where it's like, do we stay proud or do we survive?
Yeah.
Yeah. And currently the thought process is like, well, if I don't want to melt during the show, maybe I need to adjust my hard fought, standards around these kinds of things. And I was glad to see that you had decided it's like, well, it's real hot. So I'm not going to put myself through it and wear something comfortable. And I say that because as of a couple of days ago, I had booked a last minute July 4th gig.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where I'm like, in a cabana by a pool at a country club. And there's just no point in trying to gussy myself up
For sure.
beyond this.
Yeah, I think if there's a pool
So,
involved, it's a shorts gig. And
yeah,
I say that as somebody who my whole life drilled into me is you don't perform in shorts. But yeah, if it's a pool gig, you'll look weird if you're in jeans. Like nobody's gonna be there in that.
fair.
So you may as well just do that. Yeah, I was in my very light, quick dry shorts, and yeah, I was set myself up as much as I could to win.
You got your air mover, right?
I forgot my air mover. I forgot. Listen, here's the thing. This is the first like hardcore summer gig I've had so far this year. So, forgot my air mover, forgot my hat, forgot my sunglasses, forgot my sunscreen.
Wow.
So yeah, I got back and my daughter, who's 10, said, "Daddy, you look like you were crying." I was like, I wasn't crying. I just brutalized myself in my eyes and my skin. Yeah,
Daddy, you look like
I know.
you're
It's just so sweet.
That's
Like,
brutal.
yeah, trying to take care of me.
Wow.
I wish I'd taken care of myself, bud. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So yeah, the rest of my week looks like tomorrow we're getting in the car and going to South Georgia to spend some time with Amber's family, coming back on Wednesday, the day before the 4th, and then doing the gig on the 4th from like noon to 4, and then, all the other standard pageantry around the 4th of July.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the first time that I've done a solo acoustic gig this year.
Yeah.
And so gotta kind of put all of my my gear in place and trying to figure out what I need and what I need to bring, and start putting that together before I leave, and then getting it out there. And also trying to figure out what it is I want to play, because this is a little different than the normal kind of solo acoustic gigs I do, and figuring out what tunes I want to, add to the repertoire and that kind of thing. That is one thing that is super helpful with the Patreon community, because it was like, hey, got this schmancy
Yeah.
country club gig. What are the what are they liking? What's in there? And got some really solid feedback. So
Yep.
feeling good about that. You know what else I'm feeling good about? I finally got all of my fixtures for my lighting set up, and I got the Maestro DMX dialed in,
Yeah.
and now I've got myself a dadgum lighting rig.
Yeah. That's great.
So this past week we were talking about it, and you may have heard it on last week's episode, but I ordered a pair of movers. They showed up, and I could not get the Maestro to do what it needs to do. And one thing I will say about the guys and gals at Limbic who make Maestro DMX is they are committed.
Yeah.
They hit me up, and I was like, hey, I can't get this to do what it needs to do. And they gave me 2 pieces of information that fixed the whole issue.
Cool.
And I was back up and running.
Cool.
And I got they're made from a company called U King, which is something that you can get on Amazon.
Yes.
It's a pair of these movers that I got for like $150. And a couple of guys in the Patreon community got a set. And then there's also a Facebook group that Maestro DMX users have. And so I have been able to share that with other folks there. And my hope is that this is the week that I get to release the official review of this unit, and they're back in stock and all of that good stuff. And like I said, if you use our discount code, you can save 10% off of it and all of that good stuff. So be on the lookout for that.
It's good.
But yeah, we've got a show, I think in the next 3 weeks, where we'll get to pack all this stuff up and set it up for a gig and see how it goes.
That's great. That's great.
I'm really excited about that.
I think it's the only way forward with a product like Maestro is to be all over customer support, because the thing that's going to happen if you don't is people will plug their random junk into it. It won't work. They'll say this thing sucks, and then they'll post that on social media, and that'll be the conversation, right? So those guys they've got like 2 open office hours periods a week, right? That you can just zoom in and talk to them.
It's more than that. I think it's like 5 or 6 now.
Really? Wow. Yeah. I mean, they're really going hard on getting people up to speed and working well with it. And yeah, it's good. I have a couple of acquisitions planned. I haven't actually pulled the trigger on any of them, but I got some shopping carts with things in them out around the internet. So we'll see.
I'm really excited. I set it all up, and I've just been doing like spot testing all week, and it looks so rad.
Yeah, the vids you've been sending have been great.
I'm like, guys, it does this now.
Yeah.
Between all of the the custom stuff and the manual controls and all that, it is just the coolest.
Yeah.
And
And
can't wait
during
to.
the show, do you plan to just let it roll, or are you gonna manually trigger things, or what's the plan there?
So currently the situation is I've got this touchpad, this Akai LPD8, where
Uh-huh.
I can manually push things and make it do stuff, but the plan is to do a foot controller where I have some specific controls.
Yeah.
The main ones being the strobing effect, the blackout effect, and then like a static effect for between songs.
Yeah.
So Joey, our other guitar player, gave me a MIDI foot controller, and I was like gung ho. I was like, all right, let's get this thing figured out. But the issue with it is that it only did control change and program change
Yeah.
MIDI commands,
Yeah.
and the Maestro does the more basic, just note on, note off stuff.
Right.
So it wasn't going to work, and trying to make it work was going to take more effort than it really needed. And he's like, "Oh, I also have this other one," and he sent it to me, and I think it's made by Laney, and it's much more straightforward, very,
Uh,
very basic, but it will do all the things that we need it to do, and that seems like the better option. So
Yeah.
I think it's the route we're going.
Yeah. When you got two devices that are like, no, configure to me, that doesn't work so well. One of them needs to be able to
Yeah.
configure to that one. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is the plan, and we've got a bunch of stuff coming up this month. July, I think we have 3 gigs, 2 80s and 1 90s.
Nice.
Maybe I think we may have more than that. But yeah, between this month and next month, we're pretty much up to our eyeballs in work, and so
Cool.
that's exciting. I did up having to get some sub work sorted out. We had a drummer that was going to fill in for a date that had to back out. And I appreciate that. We actually had a couple of conversations around that in the Slack this week, where somebody was like, "Hey, this is a thing that I signed up for, but I'm not sure I can handle it."
Yeah.
And the transparency is really what it was about, just being like, "Hey, I don't know if I can do this." The drummer that we had lined up was a friend of mine who is a fantastic musician, but he's kind of working his way out of our world and doing, kind of getting into the normal working world, and was kind of like, I said yes to you because it was you.
Mm.
And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
No.
Like, I'll figure it out. Got a killer recommendation from a friend of mine, and we're already like good to go. It took less than 2 hours to get it sorted.
Sweet.
And now I'm plugged in with another drummer who I didn't know about before, who is fantastic, has all of the resources I need, and is like the right person to reach out to in the event that we need something. So
Awesome.
we're actually better off than we were before this whole thing presented itself.
Good.
But you know what we're not better off with? Reviews. We have no new reviews this week either.
Yikes.
I will say that we hit number 30 of music podcasts in Ireland this week.
Come on.
And we've been charting pretty high in Ireland, in the Netherlands, and a couple of other European countries over the past few weeks. So big thanks to all of our friends across the pond who have been tuning in and all of that. But if you want to hear us talk about you specifically, the best way to do that is to leave a review.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll just speak of you in platitudes.
Generalities.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Nobody wants that.
No. Plus,
nobody.
Your reviews help with discoverability. Help,
That's
it
really what
bumps
it's
us
about.
up on people's search. So, yeah.
100%.
So help.
But we're okay. Like we're not.
No, I mean, it's not like we're at the bottom of the search, but
No. We're still the highest rated cover band podcast on the planet.
Love that. And if you've previously rated us, there's no ratings police. They're not going to stop you from doing it again.
That's true.
Yeah.
So let the world know how you feel.
Exactly.
YouTube chat review. I don't know if that's a thing, but if you want to write something nice, we'll say it.
Sure.
We'll say it on the show for sure.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Tony for chiming in on the live stream.
Yeah. Better late than never, Tony. Come on.
100%. So let's get into the thing that we wanted to talk about this week.
Yeah.
And this is just it's a big question, but it's also kind of a small question.
It's strange because it is so in the unsaid of everything we're doing. I'm not sure we've ever really
Mhm.
even talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great email.
And
It was a great email.
so this came in from Chuck.
Just Chuck.
The email, yeah, just Chuck
Yeah.
is how
Yeah.
2
words.
it was
Just
addressed.
Chuck. Yeah.
So Chuck was asking a lot about last week's episode. He was specifically kind of really into what Dan was talking about around being on a stool versus standing,
Yeah.
and then the live stream or the live acoustic solo karaoke. Man, everybody wants to know about this.
I
Like,
know.
you
Yeah.
really need to get it out there and start
All
sharing
right.
what you know, because this is clearly a thing that
Well, I've been thinking
folks want to know about.
here's what I'm thinking about. I did, of course, register the domain name liveacoustickaraoke.com
Hey.
about like building a franchise model around it. Because I
Mhm.
have a set list or a song list that's big enough that a player could probably find a couple hundred songs that they know. And I got a system, a tech system for people to use. So I have a vague thoughts about building a business around it at some point. But yeah, up until then, free advice is available from me.
Coverbandconfidential at gmail.com
Yeah,
if you want to know more about the potential business prop that Dan's got going on.
there you go. Looking for early
But
investors,
yes, or I guess pilot program beta testers.
franchisees. There
Yes,
you go.
all of those words
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, businessy words.
But so in Chuck's email, he mentioned Dan being on a stool, Dan's solo acoustic karaoke, but then he dropped this
Oh,
particular
so,
paragraph,
so
and it was
good,
just
so good.
too good not to talk about. And he goes, I feel like you might have addressed this in an earlier episode. Why do we do this? Gigs like last night's make me question what the heck I'm out here for.
Yeah,
I'm not an artiste. I'm a covers guy. I don't feel like the world needs to hear what I have to say, and I like the money, but I don't need it. Parentheses, I just spend it on more gear anyways.
yeah.
I guess it's because the good gigs can be really good. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Just Chuck. But I mean, it it really gets to the crux of
Yeah,
everything, really.
yeah.
Why do we do this?
Why?
What do we subject ourselves to?
Yeah, and there's every reason for us not to do this. To be clear,
Oh yeah.
the world did not wake up and say you have to do this.
I mean, not only that, but like what you and I are doing right now,
why?
like providing
Yeah.
input,
Oh my God.
opinions
Yeah.
about this work.
Yeah.
Nobody asked for that.
No.
Nobody.
No. And then what it takes to do it. I mean, Chuck's gig last night, mine yesterday, it's like I'm going to stand in the sun unprepared. That's on me. But for however long it is, in that case, it was an hour and a half because that's about how long the trivia, people have attention span about that for the trivia I've found. This particular group that I do it for, I'm going to say some things here, and I just want that to be heard in the context of I love them very much. I love them very much. It's my third private party with them. I've become a tradition at their parties. Like, they're great, but man, are they a lot. They're very competitive human beings. So when there's a competition on the line, there's no prize, there's no, there's nothing. They're very competitive and very elbowy in front of each other. And, at the Christmas party, I was just standing on the floor with a mic, and the way that the trivia is set up, they all have hand percussion instruments to like ring and get my attention, and they were right up in my face. I mean, right here. It was overwhelming. It was a lot, and so on the party yesterday, the boss had a roll of blue like masking tape, and she like masked off an area across a pair of doors that I was behind. It was like, okay, this is the stage. There's no she taped me off a safe area.
Wow.
But they were still kind of climbing over it, and like, it was a lot. And I love the energy, but it was overwhelming. It could be overwhelming. And if it wasn't, I never got there, but I could see some performance feeling actually threatened
Sure.
by that. That on top of, I'm loading into a backyard. It's like a stepstone path, so my cart doesn't work. So I got to take 5 trips with all my junk. I got heat and sun and pool happening over there, and like all of the physical realities of the thing. The pay makes it worth it, I suppose. But like, yeah, I'm really with the question, like, why do I do this? What's this Why would I put myself through all this? You know, I think about
Yeah.
the things I want to add to my show to make my 80s brand happen. And it's a lot of things. And I have a long to-do list to deal with. And like, why? Why would I do that? It's a really good question. Just Chuck.
And I feel like we definitely have danced around this topic previously in other, I guess, coming at it from other angles.
Yeah.
But I think Chuck is actually like he's got the whole question and answer
Yeah.
in that
Yes.
deal. And it is 100% because the good gigs are so good,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that I mean, it's so easy for us to go through and like talk about all of the bad gigs that we've had, but this year, just this year, I've had enough great gigs to be like, yeah, no, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm bought in. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
And
fact
it
that
is so easy to talk yourself out of it, you know?
it really is. It really is. The fact is, for me, bad gigs where there's no redeeming factor to it are so rare. So
Yeah.
rare. Almost never happen. I mean, and it's rare enough that they're a story. You've heard, I think, all of mine many times at this point,
Yeah.
compared to all of the ones that are just like kind of an average gig, which means there was some really great times in it. I'm reminded of when I played golf. You know, maybe in a round you hit a couple really great drives, and you're like, oh, okay, that's
Oh
why.
yeah.
You know, and then the fact that you chip over 3 times and 6 putt, like, you know, even that at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, but boy, that, you know, that one on.
The last time I played golf, we went to a course that we had no business playing at. And on like the I think it was like the eighth or ninth hole, it was over a water feature, and I chipped it from the starting point just right. It landed like 9 feet from the hole in the green, and it was just like, this is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah, this is why we do that.
It
Well,
never mind the fact I ate absolute crud
yeah, yeah,
every other stroke
yeah,
on every other hole
yep.
before that and after that. That one hit, Aaron Tuning, who's a local guy in Atlanta, there's a TikTok video where he's like, I don't think golf is for me, and he hits like the perfect shot, and he's like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life chasing after this.
That's right.
And they're like,
Yes, yes,
that's what it's like. And it's the exact same thing with gigs.
exactly,
I will
exactly.
say this though, the likelihood of you hitting a good swing at a gig is exponentially higher
Oh yeah,
than you
yeah, yeah.
you
Well,
hitting it down the fairway on a
yeah,
freaking
and
golf course.
what there is to rehearse, what there is to do and prepare is all like way clearer to me than how to, you know, the
100%.
minute adjustments of golf. Like, it's all very, I mean,
Oh,
and part of why that's, well, part of why I don't golf anymore is how opaque that all was. Like, it seemed
right.
like I would make a small adjustment that would have utterly random outcomes that are divergent in totally strange ways from my normal utterly random outcomes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I've become a mini golfer much more than anything else.
Big time.
Yeah. Anyways, it is that. It really is like that moment of it all comes together. The band does something cool that was unrehearsed but just drops out of all of us at the same time, or the way the crowd is responding is really energetic and really empowering. That's really the thing with this gig with these this interior design firm. As much of frankly slog as it can be, the way they react to me, the way they're engaged with me, like that's the best. That's why I do this whole
Yeah.
thing, is because of that energy, performer to audience energy. That's not, I don't know of it anywhere else but on stage. Not just music, but other places. But there really is like a performer to audience reciprocity of energy
Yep.
that is that when I think about it, that's the bottom line of why I do it.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of like the last bad gig I had. And, you know, we talk a lot about like, oh, we're playing to nobody, or like the crowd's not into it. And the one that jumps out was last year I did a solo acoustic thing because it was just kind of like I was doing a favor for a friend who books this particular venue. It was a weeknight, just run of the mill, ordinary stuff, and there wasn't anybody there. And that was the night where I just was like, in the second stream was like, screw it, I'll stream it to TikTok, just,
For
you
fun.
know, maybe somebody will pick up. And then that was the time where I was doing the Edwin McCain song, and Edwin McCain logged onto the live stream and started like talking smack about
Yeah.
my performance of his song on the freaking live stream as it happened. So those are the kinds of things that can happen in a gig that, you know, you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So even if that reciprocity is virtual,
Right.
it can still be just as
Right.
rewarding.
Right. Well, I mean,
Or
there was a whole phase of our lives where that was all we got, you know, and
yeah.
you and I were both live streaming like crazy right then because it was the only way that we could really create for ourselves an audience to connect with. And it wasn't as satisfying as being in person and doing it for real, but it was way, way, way better than nothing.
Yeah. On my Facebook memories this past week, a live stream that I did back in 2020 came up and I reposted. I was like, remember when we were doing this from our basements?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's try and not
No.
do that again.
No, let's not.
And it was cool. It was cool to go back. I mean, my hair was way longer. That was
Yeah.
nice to see.
Mine got there.
I think I weigh them as much as I did then as I did now, but that was like, you know, I was very emotional.
Yeah.
I was coping.
Right.
At this point, it's just been 4 years and just, you know, time has done that on its own
Yeah.
side. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you know, ultimately we do it because the prospect of something amazing happening is so much higher than the prospect of something like horrendous happening.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's not possible or plausible, but like the likelihood of something cool happening is always going to be there.
Yeah.
If not 50-50, probably higher the prospect of something cool happening,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And you know, the more you do it, the better you get at making the cool thing happen, even when the room's against you or the audience is stacked against you or whatever.
But that's a cool point. It's the idea that you can make the cool thing happen.
Right. Right.
Just using, you know, tricks that you've picked up from past gigs or just
Yeah.
having your wits about you. You can,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can manufacture these kinds of things.
Yeah, the kind of charisma you've developed after thousands of hours on a stage. Yeah, you can drive that energy. You can make things happen. Even if I'm doing an acoustic show and there's literally no one there, well, that means I get to go deep on some weird stuff and entertain myself. You know, and if the bar likes it too, that's nice. You know, I like entertaining bartenders when I don't have other people to entertain. That's fine.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but it's always in your hands in a way that's really. I hope a lot of our audience is mature enough in this game to have a sense of that. I know that I didn't when I was first starting out. Like I was going to go try my stuff out and hope to be lucky and have a good time. And these days I don't worry about that. I know that I'm going to drive a great show no matter what.
Well, I think the other thing to think about that is that good is objective to a degree, but like the caliber of your performance, you are 100% in control of.
Yes.
And a performance being spectacular doesn't necessarily equate to a good gig. However, you delivering a good product is always going to be beneficial to you in the long run, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. In terms of morale, in terms of business. Yeah. All of that. So, you know, I know of bands, or I hear of bands who are all set up and nobody's there and they kind of punk out on the night, turn it into like a rehearsal or something.
Right.
You know, or see if the manager wants them to knock off early or something. I say no, have it be a rehearsal maybe, but rehearse what it looks like when you're at full energy.
Right. Like if you're going to treat it like a rehearsal, treat it like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, you know, do it full out. Do it for the crowd that's not there in anticipation of the crowd being there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And there've been plenty of nights where I've started like that and then the place filled up and it turned into a really fun show. So
for sure.
Don't let the appearance of a bummer show bum you out.
Well, and that is what it is a lot of the time, because if you're doing something over the course, like this thing that's coming up this week, I've got the prospect of a 4-hour afternoon gig on holiday. I'm not going to go into it going, all right, I'm expecting this, and this, or I'm anticipating this, and this. Go into it without any sort of preconceived notions and just be there, just be present.
Yep.
Because where it starts is very rarely where it ends.
Yeah.
And your attitude really determines the caliber of whatever it is that's about to happen.
Yeah.
So if you go into it with a bad attitude, guess what? If you go into a gig thinking it's going to be a bad gig, your attitude and actions will 100% guarantee the possibility that the bad gig happens.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. It is absolutely a self-fulfilling prophecy. And especially around acoustic shows where you've got such freedom to pivot and, find your way through what the crowd's responding to and what they aren't. And, oh, that had some uptake. Let me do more of that. And, just navigating through that relationship between you and the crowd. It's all in your hands. There's no
Yeah.
band to get, if I had to make some big on my feet pivot with my current project, my repertoire is pretty limited with them. We've got a lot of songs we do, but it's not as wide open as I could be acoustic.
Sure.
And it's going to be like that. Then the more engineering you have around your show, your show's pretty much on rails. If you had somebody who, my parents died in the 80s. I hate that decade. I don't know, something. They were like against it. I don't know.
No, I'm trying to think of that perspective. You're playing a gig and it's like, I hate this.
I know. Can you imagine
the
80s are the worst?
How dare you?
That's right. No, but listen, I have played that gig, all right? I actually have, and my ability to respond to it was not strong because I didn't have much else to go to. And I think the more nimble your show, the more freedom you have to do that. And certainly solo acoustic is the peak of nimbleness. So, just gotta be ready to just be there, be present, be with the audience, meet them where they are, but also take them where you're going. I think that's all part of it.
When you said that, I heard you say nippleness, and I was trying to picture in my mind's eye what that would look like.
Yeah, that's not what I said.
This is where the wheels come off.
I'm glad it's not what I said. It's not what I said. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got to figure out a way to make something work for you.
Yes.
Find the thing that you can focus on, the thing that you have control over that makes the gig win for you.
Yeah.
And it's not going to always be the same thing. Sometimes it's going to be, this is the reaction I got from the crowd, and that is the thing that I received as a reward. Other times it's going to be, I played my ass off, or I sang my ass off, and that was the reward.
Yep.
And that's the gratifying thing. Gratitude can happen in any circumstance based on your ability to recognize it and focus on it.
Yes.
So when you find yourself in a situation where you're just kind of not feeling it, or the crowd's just kind of meh, try to figure out what you can lock in on, that you can be proud of, that you can be grateful for, that you can tuck into your pocket as you walk away from that situation as a win.
Yeah.
And go, this thing went really, really well, and that's good enough for me.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, sometimes it's okay if sometimes that's the money.
Sure.
That's okay.
Money's great.
We like money.
I mean, in my situation, I got, a text, and they're like, hey, do you want to make $300 plus tips on July 4th? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess so.
Sure.
And so if I show up and I play from noon to 4, and then I go home and all I have to show for it is $300, $300 is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at that.
No,
so
you take it. Heck
so,
yeah.
but listen, we're really in this kind of headspace, this kind of thought process, this kind of procedural focus around what it is that we appreciate, what it is that we can benefit from. Put this junk on paper, sit down, write down the potential things that could go right, that could be a win for you before you step foot out of your house.
Yeah.
And just use that as a way to kind of visualize what you've got coming up, what you can latch on to. The power of manifestation, the power of visualization is just, it's hard to put into words. It's hard to quantify how beneficial those things can be. So if you find yourself like Chuck has been, where it's just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
If you're in that headspace before you start, open up notes on your phone. If you've got a pad and paper in your car, just think about it. Go through the exercise of just writing down the things that you think would be beneficial or would make this feel like it was worthwhile, and just try your best to latch onto one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to do that in advance, in as much as that sets your attitude in a context that is conducive to producing those things. That's first. Second is having codified all that stuff, having like captured it and written it out, you're more likely to notice it in the moment when it's happening, right? I mean, I
100%.
don't know about you, but when I'm in that, I'm focused, I'm present, I'm in that flow state. Like, I think I have a theory that that mental state is not conducive to memories being recorded. Because at the end of a gig, I'll be like, "What the hell happened? I don't even know. Like, did I play that? I can't. Like,
Right,
I
but
can't
you're
quite
in that
remember
right, but you're like in the moment you're
because
like
you're in
I'm
the moment.
doing
Yeah,
this.
you're so in
But
the. Yeah,
you're present and you're like I'm executing.
yeah,
I am
yeah,
operating at a high level. This is
yeah.
exactly it,
Yeah,
you know?
and if in that moment that thing happens in the room that's like, oh God, yeah, I love that. If you've thought in advance about that's one of my things, it's one of my why I'm here for is you actually have the opportunity to be grateful for it in the moment and afterward in a way that's totally different from just like, yeah, that went pretty good.
Yeah.
So yes, it's good advice. Write down the list of things that go right that make it worth it for you.
And this kind of just ran through my social feed this past week. This Nikola Tesla thing, where it's kind of like a manifestation visualization thing, where it's called the 369 rule,
Hmm.
where it's a goal setting kind of deal where you get like a piece of paper or whatever, and you write the thing that you are looking towards or the goal that you're aiming for, and you write it 3 times first thing in the morning, you write it 6 times during the middle of your day, and you do it 9 times before you go to bed, and you do this over and over again. It kind of changes your consciousness or subconscious to move towards those objectives and get those things. I am as new agey and as woo woo as that feels, I 100% attest to those kinds of things,
Yeah.
because a lot of what we perceive as success is subjective.
Yes.
It's based on our perception. It's the thing that we decide is or isn't significant. So if there is something that you want to achieve, even if it's literally the gig that you've got coming up this week. You can do this from Monday until Friday. The gig happens on Friday. And I guarantee that whatever it is that you are focused on, you will find a way to make that happen and for it to be the win that you get.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's not even woo-woo, really. I mean, it's what other levers and dials do you have on how you are going to see the world, see yourself, organize your thoughts, organize your feelings? How are you going to aim yourself at that, short of aiming yourself at that? It's actually
Mm-hmm.
not complicated, It's not. I don't know. It's dismissible because it seems like there's not it seems on its face like there's not a cause and effect relationship there, but there absolutely
Right.
is because
Yeah.
you're the relationship, right? You're setting yourself up to be that which can win in that environment. Yeah, I think it's really important stuff.
And it is outside of the realm of the I show up, I do the thing, I pack up, I go home.
Yeah, totally.
But the level of intention that you can put in, and honestly the amount of effort that you put into it is not much more
That's
than
right.
what you would do normally.
That's right.
It's just putting your head in the right space to appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when you've done that work, it's automatic for you to be that which is producing the outcome you want. And so it doesn't
Hmm.
feel like you did anything. And so it feels like you asked the universe and it answered or something.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I've never met the universe. I can't tell you what that's doing. But I know when I've done that work, like I just there am being that which is going to succeed. And it's just
Yeah.
automatic that my actions and thoughts and feelings and attitudes and conversations I have and everything else is just going to align with that because that's how I'm being. And
Hmm.
so it feels really easy and natural and like I didn't do anything, but I did. I did a lot of work to set myself up to be that way.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that the thing that you just described as it being effortless requires you to do a lot of work on the front
That's
end.
right. That's right.
And it is a discipline. It's a thing that
Yes.
can come and can go,
Yep.
and you can absolutely gain it and lose it just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as you are willing to kind of put your head in the game for those specific things, then you can get what you're after. Otherwise, you are just kind of left to the whims of external stimuli,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Then you come home and your wife says, "How did it go?" And you say, "Pretty good."
or terrible or
Yeah,
whatever,
however it
you know?
went, right? The question, how did it go? It becomes a sensible question, versus like, how did you have it go? Which isn't a question we ask, but it ought to be.
Yeah. It's so interesting because like the question of why do we do this turns into how do we
Yeah,
make
yeah,
how do we manifest our own success,
right,
you know?
right, right. I mean, you set this
It's
up
really
so well. It's like a
fascinating.
huge question and also a tiny question, but like it has ripples into the eternal of what we're doing here.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Man, that's heavy, man.
I know,
That's heavy,
I
bro.
know, I know.
So, in short, we do it because the potential for greatness is always there.
Yeah,
It's always there. You're never more than 2 steps away from a gig being the greatest night of your life. Here's my a really cool example of this. My buddy Matt, I've known him since high school. We played together since we were kids. He's in this group that I sub for, and Nathan, our drummer, also subs
hmm,
for pretty regularly. They got the call to do a wedding in somewhere in like it was out of state,
hmm.
and it turned out that it was for this particular. Well, I know for a fact they ended up doing Tig Notaro's wedding. I don't think it was this particular gig,
Wow.
but because of this, they ended up doing this wedding, and they just thought it was like a regular wedding gig. And what happened was that like Paul Rudd was there
Huh.
and Adam Sandler was there,
Wow.
and they got to do this thing where they were kind of like live band karaokeing for this incredible group of people.
Huh.
And so like they got to Paul Rudd sang with them and Adam Sandler sang with them, like all these
Awesome.
like crazy celebrities, and it was just like it was one of the things that you could never have anticipated on the front end
Right.
that they got to do,
Yeah.
and just the prospect of just showing up
Yeah.
meant that this crazy amazing thing happened. And I remember we did this for St. Patrick's Day gig, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the one of the girls from Pitch Perfect was sitting at the bar, and it turns out that it was the girl from Pitch Perfect, and there were a bunch of them there, and we got invited to do like a rap party for like another production. It ended up falling apart because they kept moving the date around, but I was fairly certain it was the Stranger Things rap party.
Huh.
We just it didn't end up happening because
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
production got pushed back and over and over. But just the fact that like we were just in the right place at the right time and something cool happened,
Yeah.
you know?
Love it.
And I've got more cool stories than crap stories, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Way more. Way more.
Yeah. So those are the things that you need to focus on. We do this because one, we're the only people who can do it. Like, I don't want to like over build up what we do, but like not everybody can do what we do.
No.
And it's kind of magic. Like we make something out of nothing
Yeah.
using our skills. Like
Yeah.
that's fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the thing that when we were 12 and sitting in our room twanging on a guitar, we imagined doing, and now like look at us. Here we are. And that's not something most people can say.
Yeah. So in closing, we do it because music is magic and we're magicians.
Yeah. 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 We landed.
Man, I'm
landed.
hype.
Man, you
Dude,
landed
I'm
it.
hype.
Landed it. That's awesome.
I'm so
Yeah,
hype on this.
I know.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, there's a t-shirt in
That's
that
it.
one. I think there's a t-shirt coming
Yep.
on that. Yeah, for sure.
So Chuck, hopefully that answers your question, but like I'm walking out of this episode feeling better than I did
know.
walking into it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm feeling rad about that. So if there are other, no, you know what? We've elicited like gigs from heck type stuff. I
Yeah.
want you to send us the coolest thing that has ever happened to you because you are playing music at a gig or
Yeah.
at an event or
Yes.
whatever.
Awesome.
What is the coolest thing that has happened to you because you're a musician? Email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. I want all of them. I want to hear
Yeah.
the craziest thing that has ever happened to you because you play music.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yep. Yep.
Because it's
And listen,
easy for us to kind of like dump on it.
Let me
but,
just
like,
add
it's
to that.
important.
Let me add one thing to that. If you're somebody who doesn't think anything cool has happened to you because of music, I want you to send us what makes it worth your while, why you do it.
Okay.
If you don't have a great
But
story, that's fine.
also-
Write us about what makes it worth your while.
Well, and maybe we should just like next week can just, if the response is solid enough, we'll just talk through all the cool
Yeah.
things that people have, because I think a lot of this has to do about perception, because maybe you don't perceive something as being a big deal or whatever, but like you hear it from somebody else, you're like, oh, that's cool. And you're like, wait a second,
Yeah.
that's happened to me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like the self-esteem boost that you need to kind of like, you know, keep you going or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Haven't thought about it in a while, but I one time had the first chair violin from the Greensboro Symphony. I invited him up to play with us. We were doing it was Hotel California was a song he did with us, and I offered him Taylor's fiddle, and she didn't know I was doing that. I had to clean up later that I gave away her instrument without really running it by her. But she was on fire the rest of the night. She was like, "I'm not letting that punk, whatever." But yeah,
right.
Like first chair in the symphony, soloed over, some Eagles with us. Like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
And yeah, there's been plenty of times where I've been playing a gig and like someone cool kind of walked in. I was doing like a solo acoustic thing at a pizza place one time, and Morgan Rose, the drummer from Seven Dust, walked in because he was literally there to pick up his dinner, But that's cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. Nobody else would have known. But those are the kinds of things that happen. And I had posted a video on TikTok about this probably like a week or two ago, where people think that the musicians on stage are the entertainment, but what they don't realize is that what we see is exponentially more entertaining than anything that we could do ourselves,
Definitely.
So think through that. Take some time. Think about the coolest thing that has ever happened to you because you play music or you're in a band, you're on stage or whatever, and send it to us. Because I really want to share not only primarily just the wins. Like I want to share your win with our audience, because ultimately it will benefit other people to understand like why what we do is so special and so unique and so beneficial,
Yep.
So we'll just leave it at that, man.
Cool. I love it.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. If you were on the live stream, thank you for hopping back on the live stream, because we had a technical issue that the podcast and YouTube audience won't have any context for, but I appreciate you coming back and dropping in. If you'd like to support the show, you can do it in a number of ways, but we'll let Mike go through all of those. And I'll just go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Cover Band Confidential podcast for the week of July 5th, 2024.